to episode 10 of Bimcast. What role will VR play in the future of construction? Hype or real value? Virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, you hear about it all over. Facebook bought Oculus, a VR system, for billions of dollars. Of course, when the AECOO industry is digitizing themselves, someone is going to see what VR can do, or AR, or MR. I think everyone agrees that you get a much better understanding of a built asset, for example a building, if you immerse yourself in VR to study it, versus just looking at a 2D drawing. But what does the workflow look like with VR, and when do you get the most benefit out of it? In order to find out, we invited Aleksander Langmyhr from the Norwegian VR startup Dimension10. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
And Fredrik Holm from Asplan Viak, one of the major Norwegian engineering advisors and planners. Welcome to our studio.
Thank you.
Both of you are involved in projects that are actively using VR to improve construction. So I'm really excited to learn a little bit more today about this. Aleksander, can you tell us what VR is and the difference between AR and MR?
All right, so thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here. As you say, VR, AR, MR, XR, like all these R's are being thrown around these days. It's all immersive technologies. And to put it simple, VR is a virtual reality where everything you see is virtual. AR is augmented reality, where you have a data layer on top of reality. So best example of AR is Pokemon Go or Snapchat filters, where you add on something to reality. So in general, all these are being discussed, these different terms, but down the line, it's going to be one computer platform providing both AR and VR. So XR, like cross reality, is probably going to be the term going forward. Because today, people segment between the two. Down the line, you're going to have one headset that will provide you with both virtual reality and augmented reality.
That makes sense to me, so thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, of course.
And Fredrik, can you tell us how you're using VR in real projects today?
We are in the start line. We haven't used it a lot yet. We got this cooperation earlier this year, or in the last
2-3 months.
Yeah,
so we're pretty early on the collaboration. Yeah.
So we're just trying it out. How can we use it, like you asked it, and by now I've been traveling around a bit to our offices. We are separated all over the country. So I've been to Oslo, where we have the architects on the main project that we drive right now, and we test out the VR technology. And I've tested it on the architects and landscape architects. And so far it's a great tool to use and to realize the volumes and to stand in and to take a closer look to the different things. And when you test it out, they use about 5 to 10 minutes to configure the controls and how to use this tool. And after this, they start the project, and you see how can we improve this and that, and they forget about the technology and just are close into the project. So that's the main thing I think to use it. And for us by now, it's like this. So
can you tell a little bit more in detail of the value you get? You say it's great to use, but what exactly are in this case, the architect? Why is it so enthusiastic for them? Why is they engaged? What they're getting out of this?
One of the projects that we use it in right now is a big aquatic center, and there we got big volumes, and we have some cases where we try to find out where to put the best walls, where to put it, and where to have the entrance and all things like this, and to get the sun right and everything. So in these cases we use it for this, just to get the volume to feel the volume in the model, because when you use regular 3D models on a 2D screen, you don't get this volume right, and this you have to try to figure out, because you can say it a lot and we say it, you have to try VR, but it's not before you tried it yourself you can feel the volume and really embrace it.
You know, it's interesting. I had a similar experience, but this was with 3D on a 2D screen. But I can imagine the same leap, because I was in a meeting. I was looking at new locations for Catenda, and I knew we had the actual office building in our system. But he presented me with PDFs, 2D drawings on how it looked and everything. And I thought, when I was seeing it, well, I get a lot of information here. I can imagine how it looks, so maybe I don't need any 3D models to imagine how this new office can look like. But then I thought, no, I'm going to bring up the model anyways and see. And I brought up the model and looked at the same sort of office space that he had on 2D, and I saw a lot of other things that I didn't see on 2D. So it's very much like you have to try it before you really understand and realize that, wow, this is a big, big difference.
It really is, and what we used to usually say is that VR gives you the possibility to experience the design. So the experience piece is quite important. It is, if you compare it with something else, if you go on holidays, let's say to New York, you travel there, you could easily find a lot of good pictures of New York to view. But actually going there, you experience it. And what does that experience give you? It gives you memories, but also you have the feeling of how it is to be there, and you remember it better, and you actually understand it better. So this is literally what we're talking about here, what Fredrik or Bimfluencers is saying about the aquatic center as well, experiencing the volumes. You really truly understand how the 3D model look like. So instead of viewing the 3D model, as you're talking about, on a 2D screen, VR gives you the possibility to experience it. So it's literally walking around in the building before it's built.
So when are you getting smell and airflow and all that stuff into your system?
So when we talk now, we talk about VR in general, and it is, because it's early, that's fine, but it is like saying we're using computers for building projects, or we're using cell phones. So in VR as well, there are going to be a lot of different softwares. So for gaming and things like that, there are going to be smells, and pretty soon, I think. But for enterprise collaboration software, it's not on the top of the priority list, but we're working very closely with all our customers. And if Fredrik and his colleagues from Asplan Viak and other large engineering companies says to us, Alex, we really need smell in VR, I'll guess we can look into it. But before that, that's not the top of our priority list.
Good answer. So, getting back to the how you use this in a real project, I think some of the, at least from my perspective, I don't have any experience with using VR in a real project, but I'm thinking about the logistics and the workflow. So you have the architect generate some kind of model, and how do you sort of get that into a seamless experience for the users of the project or the participants of the project, so that they can just put on some glasses or goggles and whatever, and they're there. How do you set up this whole thing?
In Asplan Viak, we think to use two different types of VR. We think the way we use when we're in meetings, like your tool, and we have the visionary part, where you can get more rendering and more better faces on the structure, and here we think separate. So I don't think right now your tool is going to get there we want to visualize the surface right now. I want your tool to get more into like your tool, to take the opportunities that Bimsync have and to use it in VR. That's what we want. But we think that with your tool, it's really easy to take the VR out in the project, because we use Bimsync and we use Dimension10, and you are integrated with each other. So when we got our model in your tool, we just put on Dimension10 and you log on to Bimsync and there the model is. So it's really easy this way. The other way you have like Revit, for example, and you just have an add-in and use it this way. So that's also easy, but there you can't meet up, and that's the main part and the main difference maybe. So that's how we see it just right now. We don't see further than a year when we think about VR, because it's so there's so much thing happens. So in 1 year I don't know where we are, but right now we have talked about it, and this is how we do it right now.
Yeah.
So do you have the headsets and the VR gear that you need? Are they distributed to all your local offices around the world, around the country, or given to the project itself, or how do you do that?
Right now we got it in some office, not all. We have about 30 offices, so it's not everywhere, but it's in the big offices, and everyone wants it right now. So we have this small group that's larging up, because everyone wants to have it on their office. So they listen to it and listen to what we're doing in our project and want to try it around. So I know it's grooming and it's getting all around, but right now we got it about 7 or 8 offices around the country. So, and it's in our office. It's not by the project. It's by the office.
And that's super interesting what you're saying, because it is about change management. It is a new computer platform, and how are you going to use that? So what we see, it's exactly like Fredrik is saying. We see our partners, the companies we're working together with, in the beginning, they create VR rooms in their offices and have like 1 or 2 headsets that's available for that office, and have that for the different offices around the country, or other countries as well. But we see once you get comfortable using this, and there is more and more traction, more and more projects that experience the value it adds, we are seeing in our most early companies more and more personal equipment. So going from like video conferencing rooms into having VR headsets at the desk of each person. And that's where we're heading, but it's gonna take some time. And like Fredrik says, it's still early on. So it would have been, it's like if you're only gonna use one program, it's like having a computer and only having one software on that. We're not there. It's gonna be a range of different VR programs. And what's most important, we've figured out in the beginning, is that, as Fredrik says, it's easy. It is so important, it's easy. So dragging and dropping models is key to what we do, and that's why it's fantastic to be integrated with Bimsync, because you have all the models readily available. So that integration makes a lot of sense to us. And also the whole movement towards BIM in general for the construction industry is so important and so beneficial for the VR technology, because if you think about it, VR is a fantastic tool to visualize assets, so you can experience them. And BIM models, perfect assets to be used for this technology. So those two things, I actually think it's going to push each other. And in Norway, we're quite early on with digitalization, so we're leading in BIM. So BIM is far along, that's going to push VR in Norway, then other countries are going to see this combination, and they're going to adapt and follow like we do here.
There are kind of 2 use cases with VR. You have one where you just put on goggles and you can experience whatever model or whatever you have. And the other one is that you can actually you can put on goggles, but you can meet other colleagues inside the model and point and show and whatever. So again, what's your experience with those 2 kind of use cases?
We haven't tried it a lot, I have to say. That's where we are right now. But we've tried the meeting up, and I think with the avatar in the program, you can see each other. You can see your arm moves. You can see your lips talking. You can see like a regular meeting, and that's a good thing, I think, and it's very powerful. because then you can't see the guy sleeping in the corner in the meeting. You see it yourself. So that's everyone is much powered up in the meeting when you have it like this. I think we haven't tried it a lot, but the way we tried it so far, it's like this. So I think that's very powerful. The other way around, where we have tried it maybe a bit more, it's the singular version where you go alone around and just like, and I think that's also a very important tool when you can integrate it with your stuff, because we're using Bimsync a lot, and then you can do it in VR. I think that's the way we have to go right away.
I totally agree. I'm so everything you says. I'm so eager to contribute, because it's exactly like that. We also see that with our customers, having the BIM model, experiencing it alone, great, like, because you understand things differently. But step 2, and when both BIM and VR adds more value, is when you collaborate, when you can actually have discussions in the model. So the value increases, and the value will increase more when users get more mature and the market gets more mature as well, because that's like step 1, experiencing alone, step 2, collaborating together, and once you start spending some time together, you understand the importance of the avatar and the lifelike experience, and then step 3, then you're like properly collaborating, many people, you have regular meetings in the 3D models, and you start using more of the metadata and the other information that the BIM model holds. And then after that again, when you come after project is done, which is going to be focused more and more in the years to come, is the digital twins, where you have a BIM model that turns into a digital twin, because when the construction is done and you start to adding on live sensor data to the BIM model, it becomes digital twin. And then having virtual walkthroughs of existing buildings, planning a service, for instance, planning service and maintenance. So we see that this is only the beginning, but taking it back to where you were, like experiencing alone is step 1, and then once you're comfortable there, going into collaborate is step 2, and you just feel that more and more value adding on.
I understand it's early days. What's your sort of approach to really testing this out, getting the most out of it? Do you have a plan for what you will use it for, or just?
Right now we don't have the certain plan of how we're going to use it. We have to try it before we can say that, and that's maybe part of my role, to just try it in different contexts. And only this week I pushed a lot in my office, just saying we are all the time, and they laugh at me, and that's okay. But now they started to come to me and just think, maybe we can try it in my project. It's like this and that, and we have a planner that's want to test it with the landscape around and place a model in the center, and maybe use drone also. We also do that. So we're thinking about it right now, to test all this together and to get the right view in the model, because that's the vision of is very important for many, of course. So now we're checking out this for the next weeks, I think.
We see a lot of perhaps at least construction companies using integrated concurrent engineering meetings, ICE meetings, where you at least for now you have a big screen which you can touch. You walk up to the screen and you kind of turn around the model, you zoom in and out, and you discuss points, and you collaborate, and maybe you create an issue. Here's a problem that we need to take care of. I'm going to give it to you, so you can work on it and come back with a solution, blah, blah, blah. So how, at least I saw an ICE meeting in my mind with goggles collaborating in the model. Is that something you're planning on trying out?
We don't have the plan for it right now, I would say, but we're testing all the time, and when we test, we can see new ways to use it, and that's where we are right now, I think. So for me to say we're going to do it like this or that, I can't, because we're not there. But we're in the testing phase, and we see new ways of using it every day almost. So it's very interesting.
And it's early days still, but from our experience, we have worked with companies for almost 2 years now using this, and what we try to do with both old and new customers is get them together so they can discuss their use cases together, so they can properly say, okay, this didn't work, but this works here, it really adds value. Because it is brand new, it is a third computing platform, so it's like, how did you use computers in the beginning? So from our perspective, it's working closely with all customers, helping them finding the right ways, and what we're doing a lot these days is helping both our current customers, but also finding empirical evidence from other use cases around the world, just gathering data to actually have some proof in numbers why VR adds value, because we can talk about adding value and experiencing as much as we want, but in the end it's going to make projects go faster and the companies make more money. That's how it is, and that's how it should be. Exactly like you're doing with Bimsync. Yeah, things go faster because there are less misunderstandings. And if you add value, if you add VR to that, you're going to see an increased effect. And I just want to say, because just yesterday, searching for more empirical evidence, we found a fantastic article from New Zealand. AECOO, one of the world's biggest engineers, they built a stadium in New Zealand, and they said they used VR to visualize and collaborate in the planning phase. And they said they had the watershed moment when the people they were working for got into the VR into the model together with them, the collaboration part, and understood their vision. And then there was no more discussions. And they said they cut the project with months, and this was only a 2-year project. So that's kind of the empirical evidence we are looking for and sharing with our customers, because when it comes to it, experiencing and stuff like that is fine, but it needs to add specific value into the numbers, and that's where we see this going.
That's really interesting, and it reminds me of I remember when I was a young kid and was playing with a computer for the first time. It was a computer, you had to program BASIC into it, and then you got something back. And people kept asking, so what's this useful for? And one of the use cases that were brought up early with many was like, well, you can keep track of what's in your fridge or in your freezer. And it's like, nobody's using the computer for that today, but we're using computers for a lot of things. So it just tells you that in the beginning you have to just try and iterate and see where it goes. You need kind of people who has a gut feeling that this is something has some value, and you need to push for the agenda.
Yeah, and that's very important for us inside our company also, to share what if one person find out something, share it fast. We use Yammer today to share fast, and yesterday I had to publish something that I used and just share it around. So because we have to the management have to see what we use it for, and our CEO, what are you doing with this? So we have to show, and by sharing, more people can try the same thing, and we can build up on it and how we use it. So that's really important.
One of the things I hear, or I used to hear, not so much anymore, was that when you put on a VR headset, you get sick. What's your experience, Fredrik, when you have pushed people onto this so far?
Everyone tells me that when I try. Oh no, I don't want to be sick. Everyone heard of it, so they're a bit scared to try. But I always says that I don't think you get sick. I easily get sick by myself, and I don't get sick. Some types of doing you can be a bit sick, so it's there now also. But for the most, that's not a problem. Especially with your tools and many of these tools, that's not a problem. But we have some tools that you can easily get sick, so it's a bit of a problem. Yes.
Yeah, and I can add some color to that. And there is a reason why, for instance, our tool doesn't make you sick. It's because of good design. It's because of the avatars. It's because we mirror reality as much as possible, but add all the possibilities that VR gives you, but in a way that reflects reality. So it's a good experience. The reason why people got sick in the beginning in VR is because what was shown in the headset was for the most games, especially a roller coaster experience. So I think when you take on the VR headset, like in our software, you put in your BIM models of the building you're building and you're walking around as you would do in reality. And you don't get sick in real life, then you don't get sick in our software either. But if you took on the headset and suddenly you were on a roller coaster going up and down in 100 miles per hour, then you don't feel that good. And so it's mostly because of the design.
That makes sense. Yeah. I tried, I think it was the Oculus first version that came out. We bought a couple of headsets for the company, for Catenda. And we tried out, of course, the roller coaster. It was a great fun. You also get a little bit, what's going on? But getting a little bit back to the general use cases, so Aleksander, what would you tell Fredrik what would you recommend him to try out in order to maximize the value of VR in construction?
I think they're off to a great start with trying different use cases. And as they're doing, having one or two people really understanding this and explaining it to them. That's also why we have a customer success team that really trains people. Because as you mentioned earlier, people need 5 to 10 minutes to understand the controllers and stuff. Of course, first time people tried the computer, they needed some time to understand how a mouse and keyboard works together. It's exactly the same with VR. You need to understand how your controllers and headsets fits together. So it's so important that companies have a person like you and collaborating with the customer success team on implementing this in a thorough way, so training people properly before letting them loose, so they really understand the basics. So exactly what you're doing, and especially on the early phase of projects like you're doing, when planning and understand, so it's when planning, so people can experience it together and get the same experience of the volume. That's the perfect place to start. So I would say our tool today and VR in general makes most sense in the phase between land acquisition and the early design drawings with architect to when you start constructing and you have many BIM models, layer and layer and layer and layer. And then later on, you will have more experiencing digital twins together. But exactly the way they're doing now, sharing experiences fast in the company and training everyone that is going to try properly in advance with just 10 to 15 minutes understanding the equipment is so important. And giving the skeptics a little bit of a push. It is very important.
And Fredrik, imagine you are talking to someone like yourself in another company that wants to introduce VR because he sees some value or she sees some value. What would you tell that person to do, first step?
Get the equipment. You have to...
then you need funding, so how are you going to get funding for that?
And that's... you have to have some people that believe in what you're saying, so you have to sell it really good or have a cool boss. I have both, so I think that's important. It's very difficult in the start, and we also have problems to say we're going to use it to this and that. So we're still there, and we can't really we have problems with just saying we get the money back for what we're doing and what we're investing right now. I don't think we can right now. It costs a bit, but I think in the end, and when we're rolling it out, I think we can get better projects, and that's the most important thing. And for the end user also, we're thinking about the end user all the time and bring the end user in it, and that's very easy with VR, and that's how we maybe think we can get the most out of it. And some guys have now turned into me and say, can we use it to this? And that's because of the end users, to show them. And I think that's where we can sell it right now. is for the end user, and then we can, when we got the equipment, you can see what you can do with it, and that's very much, I think.
So what was your sales pitch to your boss to get this going?
He was on the one of the meetings, not Building Smart, but the one in the autumn. What's Digi?
Byggreste?
No.
Digibygg?
Something like that.
One of the big...
That one, yes.
Yeah.
And there you were, and they talked to you, and you came to our office, some of your guys,
Yeah.
and then we tried it, and everyone was sold, of course. And he thought, hey, I'll buy it right away. But you have to have a plan for the software because it costs a bit, I think. So we didn't buy it right away. We had to wait a bit and find out how can we use it and can we put it into some other projects and take some projects together and then buy a license or 2 or 3. So now we got 2 licenses and because of several projects that want to try it out. So now it starts to spread out, and we also have some other programs to use VR in, and some have tried it a lot, but it's not increased everywhere. So I think we're on our way to try it out various places in our company, and
that's great. It's super positive.
Yeah.
This is very exciting, and I think it's. I always like to be where things are starting to change with new technology, new possibilities, new opportunities. I always get excited and optimistic around that stuff. So this is really exciting for me personally, and I think there is a huge potential. What I'm really missing at the moment is hardware to support augmented reality on the construction site. I think that will be just a fantastic use case to get going. And I know you have Microsoft HoloLens and whatnot, but for me it's not necessarily the BIM model on there that's going to match the reality and so forth, but it's just basic small information. Where is my stuff, where is my tools, what do I need to do today and so forth. Get it on the goggles or the glasses that they're using, or I don't know, but I think that has a tremendous impact if we can do something like that. So that's where augmented mixed reality comes in.
Yes, and that's coming down the line. And the reason why VR has started to spread first and proven value first, it's because it's a more mature headset technology, and it's more stable. Now Microsoft HoloLens 2 is coming, which is very exciting. But as I mentioned earlier, down the line we are convinced that it will be the same headset that will provide you with both AR and VR, and so that's coming. So every company that works with VR today is probably going to do a rebranding at some point and saying we work with XR. But for now, it's divided between AR headsets and VR headsets. But
so Fredrik, do you have any sort of final thoughts or comments that you want to share today?
I just want more possibilities. We looked around in some software, and some integrates with you a bit better than you are. We tried the VREX, for example, and now we are using you, and yeah, I think that's very important for us to stay in VR and just do the stuff we do on the PC.
Definitely, and that's on answering. That's why we're working so closely with our customers. So that's been a priority for us all the way, to work closely with customers, and when we see needs, and it comes from multiple places, we do that pretty fast. So that's kind of having an iterative process. We have a long-term vision that goes way beyond what we're doing now, but you have to go step by step. We can't just go 100 miles ahead. We need to take step by step, and then an iterative process like we're working today with you guys. It's great, because then we develop a product that we know everyone can use perfectly.
The future's so bright, I gotta wear shades, is what it says.
It's bright, and it's gonna include headset, but you just have to start, like you're saying, you just have to start trying.
Thank you very much for joining Bimcast and for sharing your knowledge. It was very learningful for me.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having us.